Hello, everybody, and welcome to another TV ratings talk, live TV ratings talk, which is also live. I'm Brandon Thurston, broadcasting to you live from Buffalo, New York, where the TV ratings for AEW Dynamite have just come out. 1.172 million viewers, nearly 1.2 million viewers, 1,172,000 viewers. As I forgot to turn my light on. Let's turn that on. There we go. Maybe I'm brighter now. Nearly 1.2 million viewers for AEW Dynamite in total. 620,000. What is that in terms of a demo rating? If we look at the spreadsheet and scroll over, a 0.48 in the demo rating for AEW. Good for number one on cable among cable originals for the day. How does that compare to Raw recently? Raw did a really great number this past Monday edition of Raw with a 0.64 in the demo and over 2 million viewers for the first time in months. But yeah, really good demo rating. Number one on cable for AEW. Much better than it did the prior week for Dynamite. This was the first appearance of CM Punk on Dynamite after his debut on Rampage. This is the second highest 18 to 49 audience ever for Dynamite. Well short of the October 2nd debut of Dynamite, which is, if we scroll all the way back to October 2nd here in 2019. October 2nd, 2019, not 2020, the debut episode. It is right here, where it did 878,000 viewers in the key demo, 1.4 million total. That in a demo rating is a 0.68 for a demo rating. So I don't know if Dynamite will ever reach that height and break that record. Pretty incredible that with no TV building it up. It was the first TV show that Dynamite ever did. If you think about Nitro did not do its biggest rating ever for its debut. 0.48 is what they did today, or yesterday rather. Compare that to 826,000 viewers for Raw, 738,000 viewers for Smackdown. So let's just go ahead and jump to this slide then, where you can see Dynamite did not beat Raw in any demo. Raw beat Dynamite in every demo that we have data for. Most especially P50 Plus with 155% margin for Raw this week for the comparison on Raw and Dynamite. The closest, what was the closest? It looks like males 35 to 49, and in fact, Dynamite did beat Smackdown in that demo and beat Smackdown by enough of a margin in that demo that Dynamite beat Smackdown just barely in men 18 to 49. 35 to 49 is just the older half of the demo, and the other half that we talk about often is 18 to 34. Dynamite was slightly more viewed than Rampage this week in terms of total viewership by 4%. So Rampage did 1.129 million viewers. Dynamite just doing a little bit more than that. In the demo, though, Rampage did 692,000 to Dynamite 620,000. So we go back here. That is a 12% margin for Rampage. Of course, Dynamite blew away NXT. This most recent episode of Rampage with the debut of CM Punk did not manage to beat NXT with people over the age of 50, as big as exceptional as the Rampage audience was. NXT still beat it in P50 Plus. Dynamite just edged out this Tuesday's NXT, a 5% margin, 5% lead over NXT in P50 Plus. What is that in terms of real numbers? I convert the demo rating, these demo ratings with the asterisks next to them, these last four rows. This is data from Showbiz Daily that I've taken the ratings that they report, and I've converted that using the universe size, converted that to viewers. And what we have is, well over 1 million. We don't know what this information is for SmackDown or for Impact, but for Raw, 1.1, almost 1.2, almost, yeah, this is a pretty comparable number, in fact. This week, this Monday, almost the exact same number of people over the age of 50 were watching Raw as we're watching Dynamite last night of any age. So Raw's P50 Plus audience is as big as Dynamite's audience this week. How's that for a stat? We will take some of your questions later as I run through a few slides, and then you can throw whatever questions you would like in the chat, and I will attempt to answer them. But let's look at the macro trends. We can focus and hyper-analyze the ratings all day, but it's the macro trends that I think tell the clearest story. And one of the charts that I put together, and I've been sharing for a number of months, maybe this is a year-old chart at this point, but this one just looks at the last 3 months and takes the median viewership. So I'm taking what I think of as the typical month, the typical viewership for a given month for one of these programs. So, and then we're comparing the median viewership in that month to the median viewership of the year prior. So we're trying to ask, how much is this show up or down compared to the year prior in this month? And one would think that the nature of TV is just such that TV viewership is going to be down. You're at a headwind, not a tailwind. That would be a good thing. But you're at a headwind being on linear TV in terms of wanting to see your viewership grow. So you'd expect basically all of these to be slightly down if all other things were equal. Now that Showbuzz is back, in fact, we'll be able to compare some wider trends against this eventually once we get a little bit more data behind us. But Raw and SmackDown are pretty close to even the last 3 months. As good as Raw and SmackDown have been doing lately since the return to touring. They're pretty close to even. Even SmackDown up by double digits here in 18 to 49 in July, the first month back to touring. Dynamite, though, is up exceptionally, up double digits in every row here, both in terms of total viewership and 18 to 49. And NXT, even though in these 3 months, these full months since April, June, July, and August certainly, NXT has not been facing Dynamite head-to-head. It's been on a different night, on Tuesday, and it's still not performing that great. It's down 9% in total viewership in June, down 13% in total viewership in August, and about even in July. And it's down even more strongly this month in 18 to 49, down by 27% in this month of August, which is almost complete. We've got, in fact, if I look at the calendar over here, how many more nights of wrestling TV do we have? We have Impact tonight, we have SmackDown the following night, and then we have a Raw and an NXT. So not too many more data points to add to this August calculation here. So these are going to look probably pretty, I mean, they're median, so even if the numbers were exceptional, they're going to look pretty close to this. So Dynamite looks healthy. Raw and SmackDown look to be doing decently as well. And Impact and NXT not doing so great. Impact tends to be really volatile because the sample is lower, because the audience is smaller. So that may be what we're seeing here in Impact being way up in June, solidly down in July, and then up pretty strongly again in this month in August. This slide is just a longer view of what we were looking at earlier without the bar graphs, without the spark lines in there. So just sort of look at the colors, and where you see green, that's good, and where you see red, that's bad. And we see AEW Dynamite doing pretty well in total viewership in 1849. This is not just by zero, this is sort of by percentile, the conditional formatting is. So just more of that. If we look at yesterday's TV ratings, I've scraped the Showbuzz daily data, both broadcast and cable, merged it all together. Where did Dynamite land last night? Dynamite was number one on cable among cable originals. This does not include any reruns. Big Bang Theory, no doubt, seriously, would be up here somewhere. I don't know about number one, but probably somewhere in the top 10. Big Bang Theory reruns on TBS. But the only programs beating Dynamite were on broadcast. Big Brother. Just got to find out what's going on with Derek X. Is he going to go home or what? America's Got Talent and MasterChef ahead of AEW Dynamite in the demo, not in terms of total viewership, but in the 18 to 49 demo. Challenge way behind at number 5. Tucker Carlson at number 4. American Horror Story which did not run head-to-head, and Real Housewives trailing behind. And AEW beating a number of broadcast programs too, as you can see here. These are any of the rows here that have a blank under cable rank. Those are broadcast programs on the major channels with high coverage: ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, CW. And this is last week's. I was looking at whether the female viewership, especially the young female viewership, this is Showbuzz's 12 to 34. Had gone down because the viewership for Dynamite, let's say compared to Rampage here, if we look, as much as this is approaching a record-breaking number for Dynamite, what it wasn't was that strong in 18 to 34 viewership. If you look at Rampage here, it did 231,000 viewers in the young half of the key demo. Dynamite only doing 165, but the old half of the demo, 35 to 49, 455, much closer to Dynamite's 461. This is actually the second highest ever for Dynamite in this demo, which is, I mean, we know that it's the second highest ever for 18 to 49, so that makes sense. So totally being carried here by the 35 to 49. In fact, I think this is pretty close to the record. So if I scroll back up to October 2nd, 2019, this comes pretty close to what the debut episode did, 489. So it's not this huge gap that the total demo is, because because the younger half of the demo did 389, and this one did just 165. So far less than half. So for whatever reason, this didn't captivate the younger half of the key demo into watching it live for whatever reason. I think it's just sort of the urgency of Dynamite's debut, and right here, CM Punk's debut, that this younger half of the demo is harder to get them to watch it live through linear, unless it's a really urgent reason. That I think the debut episode of Dynamite qualified as, and the debut of Punk qualified as. But this was huge in the older half of the demo. So there's that. Here's what the total viewership line graphs look like, where this Rampage episode coming just under the Dynamite episode. There's the key demo. So this data point is in the neighborhood of what Raw has been doing lately. Raw doing really well this week, though, so Raw did beat Dynamite in the demo. There has never been a week where AEW has beaten either Raw or SmackDown in the same week in 18 to 49. There might have been some neighboring weeks where that has happened, but that has never happened in the same week. If we look at year over year, I think this is an interesting comparison just to see. I've taken the week numbers and I've placed them on top of each other for this year and the previous 2 years. So we can see Dynamite obviously doing significantly better than it was last year. Mostly that's due to, I believe, almost certainly that's due to not going against NXT. Dynamite may be doing well in other ways, but the biggest factor is not going against NXT. NXT, however, is not doing as well as it was the previous year, even though, again, it's not going against Dynamite. Raw actually doing a little bit better than it did last year, even in this debut of the Thunderdome episode. I believe this is also the post SummerSlam episode. So Raw doing really well here with this post SummerSlam episode. There aren't that many dots here. I know we're still in the Return to Touring where they are doing better, and where this blue line are Performance Center episodes until this one, and now the rest of these blue dots are Thunderdome episodes. So, come to think of it, Raw has yet to do, in this weekly year-over-year comparison, has yet to do a number that is lower than the prior year. And SmackDown looks like it did just under what it did in the prior year, same week, with the most recent episode of SmackDown. And I think SmackDown is going to have a tough time doing as well as some of these first Thunderdome episodes did. So there is that. We don't have one of these for Rampage because Rampage doesn't have enough history yet. But what we do have for Rampage are pretty close to the real minute-by-minute ratings for the most recent, the second episode of Rampage with the debut of CM Punk, where we can see that a few minutes of this program did 1.4 million viewers. It averaged over 1.1 million. What exactly did it average again? It averaged it averaged 1,129,000, and it peaked at 1.4 million, somewhere just over 1.4 million. As you can see, as always, in terms of at least the limited minute-by-minute ratings data that we've seen, the biggest dips by far are always correlated to the ad breaks, which I have approximately labeled here. Not perfectly, but approximately. And then if you sort of drew a line across the times where the program is not in an ad break, it's pretty consistent from there, hovering at just over 1 million for the rest of the program, even though you've got this big peak event that opened it with the return of Punk. That's total viewership, and this is 18 to 49, peaking somewhere just over 900,000, which is a 0.70 demo rating, if you prefer demo ratings. 0.70 demo rating, which would be, what would that be? Just to put that in context, not to necessarily compare, because I'm sure Raw and Smackdown have had some exceptionally high moments as well. But 0.7, I'm looking in here in this column for something that's in the neighborhood of a 0.70. This is averaged over those entire programs, of course. But here we have a 0.66 for the return to touring. So there's that. Just under what Rampage peaked at. So certainly, almost certainly, there's some quarters and some minutes in this return to touring Smackdown that are in that neighborhood or above it. But just to put that in some context, these moments, the Punk segment was about as highly viewed as Raw and SmackDown in the key demo are at this moment in time. I'll look at the most watched telecasts of the week, and then if you want to put some questions in the chat, or if you already have, I will scroll up and look for the question marks and try to answer them. But I just wanted to look at this Excel spreadsheet that I've been working on today. If we sort this, I've sorted it by M18 to 49 right now, but if we sort it by largest to smallest, 18 to 49, and look at, this is for the last 7 days, so this is not like Sunday to Saturday, but this is Thursday to Wednesday. The last 7 days, these are the most watched shows in the demo. Big Brother on Sunday, leading the pack here, followed by Bachelor Paradise, another episode of Big Brother. Preseason football, and if we expand this column, we can see that it is in fact the Jacksonville Jaguars against the New Orleans Saints. So Tony Khan winning that one again. But WWE Raw, which is reported in 3 rows by Nielsen for some reason, that did, if we average the 18 to 49, so we can be certain about where this would rank, a 0.64. Would put it right here. Would put it at number 10, the 10th most watched program of the week. Raw. This includes broadcasts. This is not just cable. I doubt that any reruns would compete with this. The 10th most watched program on all of U.S. television, linear television. I don't know about streaming. The 10th most watched program on all of linear TV is Raw. And we got a number of other non-wrestling programs in the middle here, including Celebrity Family Feud, which some wrestlers recently appeared on, not on this episode though, but on SmackDown. SmackDown would be roughly the 19th or probably the 17th if we excluded these two extra rows for Raw. So SmackDown, roughly the 17th most watched program in the demo on all of TV. And then Rampage was, again, if we subtract 2, about the 19th most watched show of the week in all of US TV. And then we've got Dynamite here, about the 23rd most watched episode. I'm going to have to go into Python and figure out a way to average these W Raw shows automatically. And they are Raw, even though they are listed as WWE entertainment. This is Raw. In NXT, we have to scroll for quite a while to find. There it is. There it is. Down in the 250s, and nearly 250. If we subtract 2, I suppose it's 249th with its 0.61. Yeah, 0.16 in the demo. And in Impact, we would have to scroll very far to find. There it is. There it is. This is going beyond where I've even dragged the column down to. But very far down is Impact here. So there's that. I wanted to sort this too by other demos. Certainly wrestling is not going to rank highly in F 18 to 40. Oh, it did. What do I know? Raw does pretty well with female viewers 18 to 49. Even better than it does with men? No. Okay. Oh, because we just this wouldn't include broadcast because we have no data points from Showbuzz for broadcast for men and women 18 to 49. So let's see here. Okay. So this will only be cable. Raw, the most watched program with the exception of the preseason game between the Jaguars and the Saints. And then more preseason football and AEW Rampage, AEW Dynamite. So I don't know. I guess if you're Tony Khan, you've got 3 programs here that are ranking highly among men 18 to 49. If we go to the young half of the key demo, not as well. Things are ranked a little bit lower. Like Bachelor in Paradise on ABC does especially well there, and Big Brother we see again here. If we rank by total viewership, P2 plus, then it's really different because now we've got P50 plus involved, and it's a ton of what's ranking most highly here. It's a lot of broadcast, and then a lot of Fox News and stuff. So we only have P50 plus data points, as you can see, for cable, and if we sort by that, we can see Fox News dominating in the world of P50 plus. So there's that. I will now I will scroll through the chat here, assuming I have been broadcasting this whole time. YouTube is yelling at me that there might be problems. Apologies if there are. I have actually the parts of the new Wrestlenomics supercomputer is here. I will be building it more tonight. I started a little bit last night. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm kind of a semi-smart tech person, but not that much. I've never built a computer like this before. Not much of a tech person when it comes to streaming yet either. But let's see. Oh, we've got people fighting in the chat, I think maybe. Okay, the demo. Yes, the demo is the second highest ever. Do I think 1.1 is a good number? 1.1 is I see people disagreeing about this, but 1.1 is slightly on the high end of what I would expect. If we look at what Dynamite had been doing before, in terms of total viewership, this is above what it had been doing. This is the highest since right here, I think April 14th, which is the first episode that Dynamite was having without going head to head with NXT. It's the first post-war episode of Dynamite that also included Mike Tyson. This is doing a number, not quite that, but close to it. I would say this is a good number. What's better is the 18 to 49, which was the second highest ever. And again, as I kind of touched on, not great in the younger half of the demo, but I don't have a chart for this, but obviously if you subtract this 18 to 34 out, it did really well in 35 to 49, which is, as AEW folks have made it clear, is what they care about the most. I believe 1849 is the most important measurement of viewership, in terms of everything. Yeah, I think P2 Plus is important too because this represents the households that have paying television subscribers in it. But I think this was a great 18 to 49 number for them, and a very good total viewership for them. If you consider, is this disappointing? I guess maybe people are thinking that, well, this Punk was on it should have been way higher. This was slightly over my expectations, I would say, of what I expected. Now, on the other hand, this is slightly, I lost my train of thought, but it's just slightly on the high end of my expectations. On the other hand, I had been more pessimistic than some people, about too pessimistic in my predictions of the first Rampage rating, the second Rampage rating with the first appearance of CM Punk. So I feel like I've been shooting too low, and they've been overshooting what my expectations were. So you take that for what it's worth. I'm sure, by the way, that if in terms of what matters to business, you think about how much money these companies are making for TV rights, and in AEW's case, part of that is ad revenue. If you're ranking number one in 18 to 49, I imagine your network is quite happy with you. And Raw and Dynamite are, and Smackdown is doing quite well in 18 to 49 as well. Let's see here. As I scroll for other questions, this is from our friend MJ. When does the TNT special start? I don't think they've made that public, but that sometime in 2022, I would think. How do you think the move to TBS impacts the current trends? I don't think it's a huge ask to have people change channels. I don't think it's going to have much of a negative effect at all. If we think about, these are pretty distant in the past, but we think about some other time. Well, I guess there's Fox. There's the move of SmackDown from USA to Fox, and Fox is a much bigger coverage network. And clearly they have a bigger audience. They're doing bigger numbers on Fox than they were on USA, but that's with bigger coverage. Further back in time, Raw has moved from the USA Network to Spike, and then back to the USA Network. And I would have to pull up the history that I don't have real handy right now. But I don't think that there was any struggle to get people to figure out that the show is on a different network now. As long as those changes are few and far between, I don't think that's a huge ask for people watching Dynamite or Rampage, which will also move to TBS. Were these Saturday shows always planned? I've heard that AEW is doing a Saturday show is it in October? I'm not sure. I just heard the first of that yesterday, and I'm not sure what the reason is. I'm sure it's some sort of preemption on TNT. Maybe it's NBA. Again, if you have any other questions, put them in the chat. I'm still going through them. Are there enough lines on Excel for Impact? There are. You can put, as I take your question literally, you can put over, I think, a couple 100,000 rows on an Excel spreadsheet. Let's see here. Do we have an idea of what the ceiling for any wrestling show can do? I guess it depends on what you mean by ceiling. I think, I don't know. I think with AEW, it's hard to say like what the normal range, what the normal base for Rampage and Dynamite are now. With the addition of CM Punk, I think CM Punk pushes their base up a bit. I think Bryan Danielson is on his way. It was certainly indicated that he would be on his way with the comment that Punk made in his promo last night. And when he comes, I think that's not a huge increase, but that it fortifies whatever the ceiling is for a Dynamite or a Rampage. Raw and SmackDown have shown that they can spike their rating with a special event by about 20 to 25%. I don't know that they can really spike their rating short term more than that. If you're talking about what's the sustained ceiling for any of these programs, I don't think it's much higher than what it is right now, barring the emergence of some huge star on the level of a Hulk Hogan in the 80s, Austin or Rock in the 90s, which isn't eminent to say the least. Where we are right now is not far from where any of these programs live. If we talk about total viewership, living just over 1 million, I think, is where I see Dynamite. I don't know where Rampage lives. That's really hard to say because we only have 2 data points. I think and this will decline over time, all other things being equal, just because of the nature of linear TV, as fewer people have cable in their homes. I think Raw and SmackDown have been impressive in terms of their holding on to a sustained increase in their viewership since the return to fans. They have beaten my expectations. I guess I've been too pessimistic towards WWE and towards AEW in terms of expecting not as much as they've been delivering. Raw and SmackDown have not declined a few weeks in to the return to touring as I predicted. They're doing pretty well. This episode of the post SummerSlam Raw did exceptionally well. Now that said, for Raw, we're a few weeks away from Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football will take anywhere between a 7, maybe a 5 to a 12% bite out of Raw for the middle of September through the end of the year. We'll see how that goes, and we might see in some weeks. Dynamite beat Raw in 18 to 49, and we'll see what Rampage really has in that 10 o'clock time slot. I'm not sure though, and I would say too. I would add too that I'll be curious to see the quarter hours, which I don't have yet. Maybe I will later. I'll be curious to see how the second half of this show did, especially after Punk's appearance at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. The second half of that show was not strong at all, and I would imagine that viewership declined after that. Is the DB audience already watching? I don't think so. I think it's more complicated than that. I think you could say this similar. I think Punk is a bigger star than Bryan is, but I think you could say similar about Punk that, well, all the hardcore fans are already watching. I think the addition of star power additionally adds urgency to people's want to watch a program. So yeah, I think you can sort of do a thought experiment in your mind where you can't really imagine that many people who would be interested in watching a show with CM Punk on it, as that would be encapsulating the audience that would want to watch a show with Daniel Bryan on it. But remember, TV viewership is not just a binary result. It's, for one thing, it's about the viewership numbers that we see, which I can put on the screen. All of these viewership numbers are calculated by the minute. They are not representative of the number of people who watched 1 minute or 5 minutes or the whole show. These are the average. This is the average number of people who watched, averaged by the minute throughout the show. So having a great show or having a bad show motivates people to watch more or less. And I think adding star power to your program helps. It helps people. It helps give people the feeling of watching it with more urgency, or making sure that they watch, or making sure that they don't watch it on DVR this week and watching it actually live, or watching part of it when they wouldn't watch any of it anyway. I think that's part of the story of these numbers that we're trying to understand here. As I scroll back up, sorry about the video being laggy. The new PC that I should be using from this time forward will hopefully correct that. Yeah, which is why there is a new PC, is because I know we've encountered problems like this. So, what are the typical DVR +2 and +5 numbers? I wish I could answer that. That's just not a stat I've been following that much. Those numbers, you might be able to find some of those numbers on Spoiler TV, and I think the Observer has reported them as well. 1,048,576 lines on a workbook. That's impressive. To be more specific, Nigel says, is it realistic for Dynamite to ever hit 2 or 2.5 million? Let's say loaded card and little competition. No, I don't think that's a realistic expectation. Unless somebody's star power really explodes. I mean, I don't see that happening anytime soon, and I don't see that happening with the current state of what I would say the star power is that they have right now. If they put on a pay-per-view level card on a Dynamite, which they may do, I would say the Winter is Coming episode was that. Maybe they can do 1.2 million again, and maybe they can do a little bit high demo, not much higher though. Do you see, Scott says, do you see TNT and TBS moving the Rampage time slot? No, I don't. I think they're going to be in the same time slot, same night, just a different network. In the distant future, I could see Rampage being a 2-hour program, which would necessarily slightly change its time slot at least, but not in the near future. How long have we been going for here so far? 36 minutes. If you haven't any more questions, you can put them in the chat, but it looks like we're almost out of questions unless I've missed some, but I am scrolling back to see. Oh, we have King of Strong Style asking 1.17 for the Punk show. In your opinion, what do you think that means for the future? What is 1.1? Oh, that is the millions of viewers. Yeah, I guess this kind of gets at what I was discussing earlier. I don't know where Rampage lives, but I think maybe I can kind of answer this. I think if we look at where Dynamite was doing, just before the arrival of CM Punk, they were doing under 1 million last week, under 1 million the week before that. After doing over 1 million for 4 consecutive weeks, I think it's more likely that they are over 1 million more often from this point forward. Brian will help me be more confident in that whenever he arrives. I would guess sometime around September 22nd, which is the New York City Arthur Ashe show. So I think just over 1 million is probably where this show